It's an old-fashioned notion.
A visionary, a genius, ensuring freedom around the globe.
A symbol to the nation, a hero to the world.
The beacon of hope, shining out across the stars.
I look around at us, you know what I see?
A bunch of a-holes.
Possibility. You think you know how the world works?
The world is changing.
We need heroes.
Welcome to a Big Show Entertainment Network special event. Super Dave reigns in the Big Show with Generally Nerdy on location at Peterson Air Force Base. We are at the Air and Space Museum right here on the headquarters of Air Force Space Command, Army Space Command, the epicenter of American power and planning for space. So we're very happy to be here. I want to thank Mr. Nash, Sergeant Christensen, Sergeant Longwell, and the entire 21st Space Wing Public Affairs for allowing us to come on to Peterson to shoot Avengers Endgame pre-show. I'm also joined by Jeffrey Reich from Big Show Entertainment Network's The Fix to the Next Tier, and behind the camera, as always, the director of Big Show Q Branch, Chase Sexton. So guys, welcome to Super Dave Reigns and the Big Show right here at Peterson Air Force Base, the Air Force Space Museum, Air and Space Museum.
The place where the Avengers would be set up if they were a real thing, right?
Exactly. So
more likely where Carol Danvers would be.
There you go.
yeah, there you go. Either in Cheyenne Mountain or maybe out at Schriever.
Right.
So we're really happy to be here. This is a really special week. We are 1 week away from Avengers Endgame. We've been waiting a long time. Avengers Infinity War ended on such a cliffhanger.
Right.
Shocked the world, really. So the pre-sales have been beyond epic.
Right.
I'm expecting an opening weekend in the 250 million range. That might be on the high side, but it's somewhere between
250 probably.
yeah, right in there. And I expect it to break Star Wars: The Force Awakens record.
This being, I think it's the 22nd Marvel film.
Yes.
Isn't it? Yeah. So this has been a very, very long build-up from Iron Man up until now. It's been a crazy, awesome ride, and it's exciting, and a little scary to see that it's going to end.
Right, exactly. Well, this is, as Jeffrey said, this is the fourth Avengers movie, the 22nd Marvel movie, and this all started in 2008 with Iron Man and is accumulating to this point.
There are those that consider the Edward Norton Hulk to be quasi, because even though Norton wasn't recast for the Avengers movie, his Hulk and wow, I just blanked the actor's name. Who's the guy that's playing Hulk right now? I can't think.
Oh, Mark
Ruffalo. Yeah. So Norton and Ruffalo are spiritually playing the same version of the Hulk. So there are those that consider that Hulk to be the kind of backdoor prequel to the 22 movies that we just got. So
I would say that those people are entirely entitled to their opinion. However, they are wrong. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Thanks, Jeffrey. Jeffrey said it for me. I would agree with Jeffrey on that. Really Iron Man in 08 really kind of kicked it off.
Feige's version of everything is absolutely begins with Iron Man for sure.
And yeah, we definitely have to give a big shout out to Kevin Feige, the folks at Marvel, Stan Lee, the folks at Disney. They have done a fantastic job with Marvel, and I'm excited to see what they're going to do with X-Men now that they own Fox Entertainment. And let's hope against all hope, and I'm actually quite confident and J.J. Abrams, we just got a new trailer for Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, and it looks epic. And I know that there's been a lot of anger. I've kind of perpetuated some of that anger towards The Last Jedi. It was a huge disappointment. But that new trailer, which you can see on Super Dave Reigns and the Big Show Facebook page.
And there's a reaction and / breakdown on Generally Nerdy as well. So
right, exactly. I was going to actually get to that. But yes, absolutely. So as Dustin is our technical guy on all things geek and all things nerd, and then Super Dave Reigns and the Big Show is kind of an overview show.
Right.
Broad strokes. So today we are going to get into all of the questions that need to be answered by Avengers Endgame. One of the questions I have is there going to be an intermission? Because this is a 3-hour movie and I've gotten kind of older. I'm not going to say old, but I've gotten older. What do you think?
The initial... When they were initially saying it's going to be about 3 hours, they were considering, but so initially they were like, yeah, we're considering how long the intermission needs to be, and now the last thing I just heard was that there is not going to be an intermission.
I heard that too from Brad.
Yeah, you're gonna have to sit there for 3 hours and just don't get any caffeine before walking into the theater because you are going to regret it right about hour 2 1/4.
Yeah, I agree. And don't drink any tea.
Right.
Don't drink any tea.
I
So
feel that. I mean, I always have my water bottle on me. Even with these normal like hour and a half movies, I got to take a break. But this one's, you got to sit in there, folks. You got to stay. And I can kind of see why they wouldn't want to do an intermission. An intermission is effective kind of in plays and whatnot where you kind of have a revamped the action, but when you have something this big, you don't want to stop the action.
yeah, and I agree, and I understand why they don't want to do it. They don't want to stop the momentum, and we understand that. So I'm going to briefly take you through what's going to happen over the next week as we are officially into Avengers Endgame week. It is also Easter Sunday, this Sunday, so big holiday in the Christian faith, so we want to recognize that. But today, we will take you once again through all of the questions and try to give you answers to some of those questions that need to be answered from Infinity War to Endgame. And then on Thursday, we will have comic book Nate Kowalski on the program at Regal Cinema, United Artists, Colorado Center 9, Dave and Buster's in Denver. And we will probably start that show around 5-ish, 5:30. So I want to try to get it started around 5 because I know the IMAX starts at 6. So we want to give plenty of time to have that show. We will record our show today. Then we're going to do a follow-up show a little bit later to talk about the leak, the big leak. So we're going to talk about that, quote unquote. So you will get this show, our pre-show with comic book Nate Kowalski. We're going to watch the movie for 3 hours, and I'm already hearing the word epic, beyond epic, for a few of the critics that have already seen the movie but are held under a embargo until probably Tuesday. So that's a good thing. But then you'll get my lightning reaction right after the movie, and I'm excited that Reagan is going to be joining us.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Who we
Aquaman, right?
No, actually from
from Captain Marvel. That's what it was, from Captain Marvel.
So Reagan's going to join us, and her mom and dad. So we're really excited about that. So let's get right into it, gentlemen. I'm going to go.
I feel like you set us up with a pretty good transition into this because you were talking about now that they own X-Men. One of the big fan theories that's out there right now is, will we see the X-Men in Avengers? Will we see some sort of cameo from an X-Men? Will it be the stinger after the after credit scene? Are they going to capitalize on the fact that they just closed on the X-Men? So my personal theory is no. Because it didn't close in time. Like, the best we can hope for at this point for that to happen would be just a real quick shot of someone that's going to be staying on that cast in the post-credit scene.
Yeah,
that would be
the whole what was it, Captain Marvel at the end of Infinity War Part 1, where we just had the quick flash. That's I think, if anything, they might just have the symbol or like the picture of the house and someone talking on the phone. But I don't think it's that sealed in that we're going to get an actual character peek.
No, well, and they don't have anyone cast, so that's the biggest tell.
Except for
Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool.
Deadpool.
So theoretically, if they have a showing from that universe, that would be the only option, because they've said, and whether or not they stick to this, because we've gotten casting announcements that say, hey, nobody's sticking around, like for Suicide Squad,
right.
And then now we're finding out about half of that cast is sticking around. So what they've said so far is it sounds like they're going to revamp that entire franchise outside of Ryan Reynolds. I don't see Deadpool being that cameo.
No, I don't see that at all. Do you, Jeffrey?
Such a serious movie. It'd just be in bad taste. Although they did have the ant running on the treadmill at the end of Infinity War, so I don't know. It might happen, but probably not.
Yeah, my guess is it won't. So I think we will probably get at least 2, maybe 3. The one character that I am interested as to will we see is Death. So, I'm interested in that.
That would make comic book sense, because that is the whole reason in the books. That's the motivation for Thanos to kill everyone off, is because he's trying to impress Lady Death. Yeah. They haven't addressed that. Matter of fact, they have kind of squashed that with the way they set up Infinity War, because they've turned Thanos into a race. He is now, the Titans are a race of people, which is not how it is in the comics. Exactly. And his whole theory is that there's not enough. It's a rather, let's not get too political, but it's a rather liberal view of the resources that we're looking at in our current society. Of there's not enough resources, we got to do something, we got to cut back our usage, and that's kind of his way of doing that, is let's cut out half. You know what I mean? So like that's his motivation. Instead of just being evil to impress Death, he's evil because he's trying to save life. So like I would be awesome to see Lady Death. I don't think it's going to happen though.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see. We're only a week away, so let me get into these questions. I made my notes. Hey. So, question number 1 on today's panel is, what is the significance of this movie on the superhero genre? Is this more than a superhero movie? I'm going to give the first question over to you, Jeffrey.
Oh, man. That's a heavy one. Good job on the questions. I would say that this has, of course, a massive impact. I think we're all in agreement on that. Yes. It is the biggest build-up so far of any comic book movie. It has had very few failures along the way, although Iron Man 2 and Iron Man 3 were not great.
Right, they were not great.
Age of Ultron was not great. Yeah, they've stumbled a few times, but the majority of the magic retains its magic, I suppose. And this is really one of the first. It's very new for nerd culture to be mainstream. Basically, the 80s was like this renaissance of nerd culture where it was okay. And so this is the first time we're really seeing that push of like, oh my gosh, this can be done. You can have a mega comic book nerdy blockbuster that totally breaks the internet and the world in half, basically. It is a massive impact on this culture and a massive opportunity, a window, nay, a door for more comic book hugeness to come through, essentially. And for the second part of the question, as far as what was it?
Is it more than a
superhero movie? Oh, I can't say that it is in good conscience. As a person who is a student of film, it is a comic book movie. As much as it doesn't want to be, it totally is. What I can say for what doesn't look like a comic book movie, just a little aside, is the new Joker film. It actually looks like an independent movie because it's not focusing on the super, it's focusing on the human. And I think, exactly. And I think despite these superhumans being both, we're still focusing more on the super than the human, even with the snap happening. So
right. Well, we're gonna That's a good answer. We're going to keep it to try to keep it to Marvel today. But do you want to follow up? On that?
So
What he's
the
saying?
first, I feel like your response to the second half of that question is absolutely right. We're not going to tread new ground as far as cinema is concerned. That I don't think was ever really. I mean, there are some less educated in the language of cinema who are like, "Wow, this is the greatest movie ever," and like, yeah, it's cool because of the scale, because of that buildup, and that's to answer the first half of the question. That's why there's going to be such an impact. That's why it's going to feel like this momentous occasion. But like you said, in the scheme of things, when we're talking about art, cinema as art. Probably not. It is by and large a superhero movie. The Disney Marvel movies, for all intents and purposes, have not really furthered the language of cinema. They haven't really contributed more than just we're big spectacle. Yeah, we are this spectacle, and that's their purpose in the genre. Now, what they have done though is they've opened up that conversation of, well, that's what their version of a superhero movie is. We had it, and it's been squashed at this point. It's just rumor, but we had rumor a while ago that Spike Lee was going to get in on it, and so we are going to have our version of an independent superhero movie. Right. What does that look like with a name hero? I believe he was going to be doing. It's a Spider-Man anti-hero. I can't remember exactly which one it was,
Nate
but
would probably know that. Spider-Man guy.
So
Rain Man.
So that was going to change that conversation, and we have the Venom movie that just happened, which, however you feel about that movie is kind of irrelevant because it does change what a superhero film looks like, and that's the important part. So the fact that these movies exist is impactful to the rest of the genre because they are the cookie cutter. This is what a superhero film looks like, and so anyone who wants to challenge that then can start making those artsy kind of films.
And as a quick aside, though, we do have news, and we have had news for a while, that there is a Spawn movie in the works, which I think could be equally as eventful as a Spike movie as far as, any of the Spider-Man villains. So there is hope out there for an independent comic, a very independent comic book movie to happen out there.
He's spearheading that himself, by and large. We're not going to go off on.
We're not going to. We're going to stick to Marvel. This is the Avengers Endgame panel. So very good discussion on that point. So that's I had to throw that question in
it's a good question.
because of the impact that it's had for 20 years. I mean, since 2008.
Yep.
So let's get right into one of the questions that I feel that Avengers Endgame must answer, and who really died in Avengers Infinity War? No kidding.
As far as the snap is concerned? Well, I guess let's give this one to Jeff because you have the list, right?
I don't have the complete list.
But you have the list of people who are coming back from.
Yes, I do. I
feel
have.
like that can address that at least partially.
Yeah. So Spider-Man: Far From Home, of course.
Yes,
Spider-Man is dead.
Yes, Spider-Man's coming back because
Yep.
we have Far From Home. And it takes place after the events of Endgame.
Yes. Theoretically.
They haven't confirmed that. But that is what.
We also have a Doctor Strange sequel that's in the works, and he has disappeared. Black Panther sequel coming up. We got to get him back. And 3/4 of the Guardians of the Galaxy are gone, but Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is still in the works.
Yeah, that's true. And we're happy to have James Gunn.
Yes.
Very happy.
So very
Good
happy.
move, Disney, good move.
Now,
man.
we just got confirmation to piggyback off that. We just got confirmation for the Falcon and Winter Soldier series on Disney Plus.
Yes.
So Falcon, who disappeared in the snap, and also Bucky, and so those two. They again have not confirmed that the series is going to be post snap. Because there's rumor that the Loki series that also got confirmed to be happening, but the rumor is the Loki series is going to be prequel. So theoretically, Loki is actually dead, but he didn't die in the snap. He was killed.
He was killed.
Right.
And I'm gonna transition into that segue. Who is actually really dead? Because who I see Loki died pre-snap. Heimdall died pre-snap, and so did Gamora.
Now, of those 3, one of them has been officially confirmed to be on set. Gamora.
Yes.
The other two, I don't believe. I'm Tom Hiddleston may have been on set, but I don't think Idris Elba was on set at all. So I think Heimdall for sure is gone, which kind of sucks because I love Idris Elba. Right. Loki, I think, might be back as flashback scenes. I don't know that he's going to factor in, but the one that's super up in the air for me is Gamora. Is she going to be flashback scenes? Is she going to come back because they're going through time to make this happen? And so that makes the snap irrelevant. Just dead is dead. So you can bring back anyone, theoretically, but are they going to undo the snap somehow? Because that would be the only way that Gamora is dead for sure. And also Heimdall and Loki as well. Those 3, because like you said, they died pre-snap. If they're only going to be undoing the snap deaths, then those 3 have to be gone for good. But if time travel factors into it more than the stones, then anyone's fair game.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. And I would think somehow they'd figure out a way to bring Gamora back because of Guardians. So, wow, well, we'll see. We kind of answered question 2 and 3, so we're going to move down to question 4. Of what needs to be answered with Avengers Endgame. And the 4th question is, how did Ant-Man escape the quantum realm?
Okay, so this is a very interesting and kind of deep question. But theoretically, if you go deep enough into anything, you pop out on the other side. And that is true in physics as well. So maybe he gets so small that he actually pops out of there. Also, we do see that wasn't it his daughter survived or something like that? We see her in the trailer,
right. And that's what I'm referring to is the trailer. And of course, you're an interesting and deep guy, so I figured you should be able to answer that question.
Yeah, I think definitely somehow she figures it out. I mean, they've got kind of the romance thing going. Ultimately, I think it comes down to comic book logic. There's no entire way for me to say what they're going to do, as the Russo brothers are scientifically accurate to a fault, but it does seem like you are very interested in this question.
They addressed this, I think, and this because I've heard a couple of theories that piggyback on something that they said. I believe it was Ant-Man and the Wasp, because it was Michelle Pfeiffer saying when they go into the quantum realm, you want to stay away from the time vortexes because you don't know what's going to happen. So some of the theories circulating right now that deal with that are he either figures a way to just get big again and come out of the quantum realm, or what's more likely, because they've already dropped these seeds, is that he finds a time vortex and figures out how to manage that time vortex, which then spits him out after the snap.
Okay, good. I'm going to leave it with you.
Sure.
I'm going to ask another question number 5 of what needs to be answered with Avengers Endgame, and that's what happened to Hawkeye. What has happened to Hawkeye?
So if you watch the trailer, and actually if you even they kind of hint at this a little bit in some of the post-credit scenes and some of the stuff that's happened since Infinity War, there's going to be a time jump. You see this in the trailer because we see Black Widow, who is currently, as of the end of Infinity War, is a blonde. Yeah. And so in the trailer, we see her back as a redhead again. Right. Now, there is time travel, so potentially, there's very, very small potential, but potentially they're going back in time, and that's why we see her as a redhead. But there's too much gravity given to some of those scenes where we see her as a redhead to have that be a flashback. Right. So likely what's going to happen is because of the snap, and this is, again, a few theories kind of address this. Because of the snap, Hawkeye loses his family. And we're going to see that we get that kind of flashback thing, and that might actually be our introduction to Hawkeye, is that scene in the trailer where he's having a picnic or whatever with his family, and he's doing archery lessons. Right. That might be where he loses his family. And the loss of his family then causes him to go to Japan and just start taking out Yakuza like he does in the comic books. So that I think that would be a fantastic way, and that's the most sound theory that I've heard is he goes a little nuts because he lost his family. So that makes sense. That fits. All those pieces line up. So I think that's what happened.
I would also briefly add on to that if his wife was still alive, she would not allow that haircut. Wouldn't happen.
Well, wow. Yeah. So we've got plenty more questions, and we may have to answer some of these in our second part. But let's get to the last question in part one of the Avengers Endgame panel. And will the Avengers, well, you kind of answered that question, where will they travel through time? And I think we're all affirmative yes on that. Okay. Will the Avengers return to the Battle of New York?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you agree with that?
On that set piece to not have
Okay. I agree. Yes on that. What is Captain Marvel's role?
Enforcer, I think. I think they haven't given her enough back. She got her own movie, but I don't think she's gotten enough weight in this overarching story for her to be anything other than an enforcer. And I feel like that's kind of what they were setting her up to be anyway. Yeah. So she's going to be power, and that's about it.
Okay.
Yeah, so about the same thing. She's going to be the new Thor, essentially. Right. Like old Thor, just emotionless, just muscle.
Yep.
Right. Well, folks, that is the first part of many videos that we are going to shoot for Avengers Endgame week. And I would like to thank the 21st Space Wing, Peterson Air Force Base Public Affairs, the Peterson Air Force Base Air and Space Museum, Mr. Nash, Sergeant Christensen, Sergeant Longwell for having Super Dave Raines and the Big Show here on location. So for Jeffrey Reich, for Dustin James, the host of Generally Nerdy on Big Show Entertainment Network, I'm Super Dave Raines, and until next time, own the love.